All right. Now call the 2024 annual meeting of the Watershed Council to order. I want to thank everybody for what you do to serve our watershed and for your interest in the work that we do here at Tip of the Mitt. I began this adventure of serving this organization as president in April of 2023. It was an unexpected opportunity. It wasn't planned for, and we faced some very difficult challenges at that time. Fundamentally, there was a need for quality executive leadership, both immediate and for the long term. In our immediate situation, we were blessed when we found Jim Baker to come in to serve as interim administrator. His work was transformational, and you'll learn more about that as we work our way through the agenda. The long-term executive director search took a lot more time and energy. We needed time, effort, and funding. Because of the past work that had built the Tip of the Mitt to what it was at that time in April of 2023, we had all three of those elements present. Today, we are recovering both financially, and we are blessed with the leadership of Heather Huffstepper. You'll learn more about that later as well. We do have some official business to take care of, which will also begin shortly. But before getting down to business, I'd like to just take a moment and take a deep breath, take a look around this sunlit room. Imagine the beauty of Little Traverse Bay just outside the windows here. And give thanks in whatever way you're able to do that for being alive at this moment in this very special place. Everyone here shares both a love of our water and a willingness to share in caring for it. And together we can be a very powerful force for this area that we love. Thank you for joining with me in that moment. And now we'll get down to business. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from last year's annual meeting. They're in your packet. And I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as submitted. And then if there's discussion, if there's a motion in a second, we'll have discussion as needed. A motion to approve the minutes? Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? During no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor.
Hold on, I had a note. Question.
Under introduction of the directors, we have that you introduced new board member Linda Adams, but then we don't have Linda listed under the election of the new board members. Was Linda elected prior to the annual meeting?
Yes. Yeah, both of those people were, they had been appointed to fill unexpired terms.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so just to be, that's a good question. And so our bylaws, when there is a term that is vacated by someone resigning, unless they've been recalled by the membership, the board has the authority to approve, and we appoint somebody to fill out the term. We do that because our terms are staggered so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have all new faces at one time. So that was what was going on back then. And so Bob's appointment was at that time was to fill out a 2-year term, so he's got 1 more year to go. Linda was appointed for 1 year, so that term that she was appointed to ends with this meeting, and that's why she's on the list to be elected today. Good question. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? If not, I'll entertain actually, I got the motion already. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. I now want to introduce the board members that we have that are up for election. A new board member coming on the board, but somebody who's very familiar to tip of the bit is John Gannon. John is filling the seat that is allocated to the Mullet Area Preservation Society, the Mullet Lake Organization. We asked that association for suggestions. John was suggested to us, and we welcome him aboard. We got a little email from him with his qualifications, and I'm just going to read a little bit of that. For John, quote, "It would be like coming full circle since the research I conducted at the U of M Water Station on 40 inland lakes in Emmett and Sheboygan counties in 1974 and 75 provided the baseline for annual water quality monitoring conducted by the Watershed Council and its volunteers to this day." Continuing, he was the keynote speaker at the first Inland Lakes Expo for lakeshore property owners at the Bio Station in 1978, where he recommended that a watershed council be formed. Since he became a year-round resident at Mullet Lake 5 years ago, he's been attending watershed council meetings and volunteering for activities, including the stream monitoring on Mullet Creek. Continuing, board member Linda Adams played a key role in our executive director search and continues to support Heather's transition and her onboarding experience. Linda served for many years as the director of the beloved Charlevoix Public Library. These are the two new members for our board that are being proposed for election at this time, and that will fill the slots for which we were recruiting folks for this year. And we'll entertain a motion. If there's a motion and second, then we'll have discussion as needed. Is there a motion to elect these two individuals to our board?
I move that.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I support.
Motion is seconded. Is there further discussion? All right. Seeing no need for further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of electing John Gannon and Linda Adams to the board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard. But welcome back aboard, both Linda and John. We also would like to recognize at this time the services of two outgoing board members, Mary Beth Kazansky and Donna Perla. I don't believe Donna's here with us today. Mary Beth, or Mary Beth is not able to join us today either. Donna Perla served for many years on the board. She was from the Mullet Area Preservation Society. Mary Beth Kazansky has been from I think it's 3 Lakes, is it Bob?
Elk Lake.
Elk Skagamog Association. She served very well for 3 years, and we're happy to have her services. All right. And at this point, we move to a financial overview, and Scott's our treasurer is going to give you that feedback. Scott, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. This is the 30,000-foot perspective of the organization's finances. From that perspective, it looks pretty good. But for those of you that are actually paying attention and doing a little math in your head, when you subtract out that $2 million bequest, you'll see that we had a bit of an operating deficit this past year. There's two things going on there. One is we haven't had an executive director in a leadership position that has been fundraising, been doing major gift fundraising for a little bit. The other is we've had a lot of staff turnover, which has impacted our ability, the organization's ability to sort of continue that grants and contracts revenue. I'm happy and pleased to say we have a new executive director who's great. Take it from someone who's been 30 years in nonprofit management, conservation management. That issue, I think, will go away with a little bit of time, and we have a fantastic staff. And the whole grants and contracts revenue line will right itself as well. There is a plan to deal with the deficit. That plan is being implemented now. We're already seeing some changes. That curve is coming back already. I think we've reset our fundraising goal for the year higher. Halfway through the year, we decided to raise it. We've had a fair amount of success. And I'm happy to say the organization has significant endowment funds and plenty of funds, unrestricted funds that can be used to fill any deficit for some time. So we're in a transition. As Tom mentioned, we've got new leadership, we have new staff. I fully anticipate this to be a non-issue in the next year or two. However, during the transition, we have the resources we need to get us through it. Are there any questions? Anything anyone want to say?
How do you plan to raise more money?
There are a lot of different ways you raise money in a nonprofit conservation organization. There's membership, there's major gift fundraising, and Mitt does a lot of grants and contracts. The biggest bang for your buck is major gift fundraising. That's driven by an executive director. That's driven by personal relationships with those donors that make larger gifts. Heather is already getting ready to move out and start. I think she's already started meeting some of our larger donors and reconnecting with them. There's been a disconnect with some of our major donors. The membership piece of it is important as well. We've, during part of this time, our sort of membership renewals, all of that kind of thing was a little bit hit and miss. That is back on track. That's up already this year. And the grants and contracts piece, it's kind of the same thing, right? You have staff writing grants and contracts, putting together various work plans. In the staff transition and change, a lot of that wasn't happening. It's happening now. So I'm very confident that we're on the right track and we're going to move forward relatively easily. Yes, sir.
Would you clarify or speak to that bequest line, what that was all about, please? $2 million.
What that bequest, it's
Yeah.
actually a $2.7 million bequest, but we haven't received the last 0.7. This was a bequest from a major donor in a will, and some of those funds were used for the new education exhibit at the office. But it's an undesignated bequest that a donor had left the organization. It came just in time, frankly. Talk about happy circumstances. You don't ever want to talk about somebody passing that way, but it came just in time. Much of that will ultimately, I think, be moved into the endowment portion of the budget, which already has just under $2 million. So, as I said earlier, the organization has a solid endowment, and it also has more than enough undesignated operating funds that can be used to get us through the transition. Other questions?
How much of the endowment can be used on an annual basis?
It's generally 4 or 5%. I'm not sure exactly what the rules around this endowment are. I'd have to go back and look, but it's whatever it throws off, 4 or 5%. You're not supposed to dig into the corpus, but you can think what the corpus throws off and use it in operations. Any other questions? All right, I think I know that we're headed in the right direction. Both in terms of just absolute leadership and the financials. So I don't want anyone to panic. This is a little bit of a bump in the road. I think this is gonna play itself out, and the organization will be in a much better shape as we move forward. Thank you all.
We're running pretty close to on schedule, if not a little bit ahead of time, so if you'll indulge me, I want to just tell you a little story. And this is a plug for Plan Giving. So, there have been a lot of work done on Plan Giving in this organization in the past. And sometimes these things pay off in spades. Somebody sat with their financial planner years ago and said, you know, when I pass, I want some of this to go to Tip of Mitt. Fast forward, Kim Baker and I are 2 weeks into our work together, and we're looking at trying to, we need professional help to go find a new executive director. We got to write a grant to get some money to do that. We're working on that, and Natalie Watts comes in holding a letter between thumb and forefinger like this. She opens our mail. She hands it to Kim and I. It's a letter from a lawyer, a New York law firm. If you'll sign these forms, we'll be able to distribute 80% of your request in 30 days. We estimate that that'll be somewhere around $2 million. Kim's career was in nonprofit, but his degree is in theology. And my work, what I learned about running the board, I learned on church boards. We looked at each other and said, this is a message from God. That's the kind of impact that a planned gift can have. And just please keep that in mind. And that is a great segue. Now that I tell you where I am on the agenda, Chuck Canese is going to talk to you a little bit more about Kim and lead us in our acknowledgement of good service.
Morning.
Morning.
Without getting any more ecumenical than we already have, I think, you know, we've seen some wonderful things lately. There certainly are greater forces than us, you know, at work here and recognizing the work that we do. Kim was, you know, just to keep up with the theme, was our bridge over troubled waters. He came on board at the right time, brought exactly the skill set that we needed. He brought a wealth of experience in this type of work. He brought a very, very steady hand, and he brought great depth of wisdom. He had the good news is he had an amazingly talented staff on him. The rough end of that was that they were all young and very, very new to position, but he came in and was just the right person at just the right time to turn that group of raw talent into an amazing team. We've hit the ground running. We've reestablished traction and movement into the right area. A great deal of that credit, you know, has to go to Kim. In a sense, so without really going any further, because I think we all have the picture of what's going on in the organization, what Kim's presence actually meant to the organization is Kim answered our SOS. He threw us a life preserver. Now we're going to give him one back.
Thanks for the invitation to be here today. It's nice to see so many friendly and familiar faces. And thank you very much for the kind words. My time at the Watershed Council was extraordinary and a real pleasure. And working with the board and supporting the staff was a real meaningful yesterday. So I only wish the very, very best for this organization. And the Shamal is the name of my 1966 Pearson Vanguard, and it means, it's an Arabic word meaning the north wind, and which is the best sailing wind on the Great Lakes. So thank you so very much, really appreciate it.
All right, it's now my very great pleasure to introduce to you our new executive director, Heather Huffstetler. And she's going to bring you up to date on where we are, what her ideas are for the organization. And I just want to acknowledge that those of us on the board have been working with her, feel really solid that we made a great choice. We're looking forward to what she can accomplish for the organization.
Good morning, everyone. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, just make sure you speak in the microphone, we did have a couple guests that couldn't hear the back.
Okay. Is that okay? Okay, so thanks everyone for coming today. I'm Heather. I'm your new executive director. I can't tell you all how pleased I am and honored to be here. I think it's my 4th month. I'll admit I've sort of lost track a little bit, but this is an excellent team and organization. Having lived in this region for about 12 years and benefited from the work of the tip of the Mitt Watershed Council, it is a real treat to now be working on this important mission. So speaking of missions, mine is now to catch you up on all the things that we have done in 2023. So all of you know that we do so much for K through 12 education. So I just want to catch you up on some highlights from 2023. Through our Watershed Academy program, we taught in 11 schools across the region and impacted 211 students. The Watershed Academy, for those of you unaware, is the program through which we take high school kids out into the field, get them wet in streams and rivers, and they do actual stream monitoring and stream ecology, and we get them excited about the places they live, teach them things that they maybe have never seen before. We worked with the Lake Charlevoix Association through our longtime partnership for Students Experience Lake Charlevoix. We got to take 5 schools worth of 6th graders throughout Charlevoix County. That means 186 students over the course of a couple of days. We took them out onto Lake Charlevoix and took them through our whole lake monitoring program, experiencing lake ecology and learning all about how lakes function. Some of these students have never been on Lake Charlevoix or out on a lake at all. Oops, sorry. Not yet, more education. We also led 7 educational events throughout the region and hosted 4 field trips to the Watershed Council itself. And I'll just note we do that with 1 education manager on staff and then pull a few support staff through the rest of our staff and some volunteer help. So our regional monitoring programs are also very busy. These are our volunteer lake monitoring and our volunteer stream monitoring. Really popular programs, but also really important for us to understand the trends of water quality throughout the region. They help us both connect with people throughout the region and help people connect to these ecosystems. And they've created these long-term friendships and volunteers with people for us for over 30 years. These programs get teams of adults, families, work families, and connect these people with the places that they live close to. These connections last forever. So our monitoring coordinator last year worked with 37 lake monitoring volunteers, 81 stream monitoring volunteers, and last year we also still managed the avian botulism program, and that program had 8 volunteers. So our monitoring coordinator is a very busy woman, but she loves the volunteers. Every time she talks about a conversation with one, her eyes light up and her face just, explodes into a smile. Our community building and statewide efforts to protect water quality laws, empower local leaders to do more, and bring awareness to larger issues emerging is something that we're really, really proud of. Last year, in 2023, we supported Torch Lake Township's groundbreaking efforts to pass a time of transfer septic ordinance. Really important work, and we now have supported that time of transfer ordinance is now the basis for statewide septic code. So through that collaborative effort, we're now working with state legislators, and hopefully we will have something for those state legislators to pass soon. That collective effort with partners like Torch Lake Preservation Alliance, the Health Department of Northwest Michigan, Torch Lake Township, and many concerned citizens, many of you here, I'm sure, we're all proving that that voice can really help protect our water resources. Additional work with partners like the Lake Charlotte Boy Association to empower local leaders have accomplished things like leading local planners associations and planners, bringing planners, local government leaders together to express challenges, network together, and learn, and we bring those folks together so that we can also talk about resources that the Watershed Council can bring to their work. We also worked with state partners to advocate for the repeal of the no stricter than federal law, which was placed into law under Governor Snyder's, placed into law in Governor Snyder's, I was gonna say reign, excuse me. But anyway, Governor Snyder passed that law, which prohibited state agencies from making rules stricter than federal standards. Our partnerships with folks succeeded in that, and now we have standards, agencies can pass standards that protect drinking water standards and other natural resources standards that protect our resources in a way that works better for our state. Our water protection team, water protection team was also really busy in 2023. Take your hand off of the computer. Water protection team was also really busy in 23, and we finalized and got approved the Mullet Lake and Sheboygan River Watershed Plan. This is really important because it means that we can bring federal and state funding to that community. So with partners like the Mullet Area Preservation Society, we can help community members write grants that implement that plan and bring real watershed protection projects to that community. We were also awarded a very competitive grant to begin writing the watershed management plan for the Black Lake watershed. And we took a big step last year in starting that plan by engaging with the U of M Environmental and School of Environment and Sustainability students to do a series of resource assessments. So that sets us up for all of the baseline monitoring that we've done this year. Our team also coordinated, along with our communications and development team, in creating the mural on the side of our building. This is interactive and really shows the intersection between science and art, and we're really proud of that. So if you go across the street after the meeting, please check out that mural as well. I have to mention also something sort of behind the scenes, but something that our team worked really hard on and is finalizing this year, and that is the redesign and inclusion of our decades of stream and lake monitoring data into our website. You can all dive as deep as you want now into about 30 years of lake and stream data and track things like how much fluoride has there been in Wallen Lake over the last 30 years. And that was coordinated by the Downstream Project, and we're really, really thankful for their help. And then last but not least, of course, because this is kind of where my career started, is in our restoration and invasive species education programs. This program, as you've kind of heard the theme, is really building up steam. So the mobile boat wash station, or mobile boat wash unit, we affectionately call it MOBO, travels throughout our service area, and the folks who run it, whether it's our staff or our interns, talk to anyone and everyone about the intersection of invasive species and boats that travel between water bodies. They'll wash any boat whose owner is willing to have it washed, and has a huge impact on preventing invasive species from entering water bodies. Last year, we partner with lake associations, townships, counties, the DNR, and the U.S. Forest Service through this program. Last year, we held 33 events across the region. Volunteers help us at all of those events, and through those volunteers, we clocked 160 hours, and we reached over 1,000 people, and we washed over 250 boats. The restoration. The main staff person who runs this program isn't here today. He's traveling back from New York on a fabulous vacation. But he works his butt off all summer long. So our restoration team also is busy every summer, and last summer in particular, designing green stormwater infrastructure projects for landowners and lake associations and municipalities. In particular, one of our big wins last year was the rain garden in Harbor Springs at Ottawa Stadium, and that's featured in your program, so you can read all about that. So we're really proud that now in Harbor Springs we have a big rain garden protecting Little Traverse Bay's water quality, and really, filtering a lot of runoff from a pretty sizable parking lot. A couple other successes from our restoration program is we partnered with Conservation Resource Alliance on Maple River Road Stream crossing, and then we also installed a shoreline buffer on Lake Charlevoix with East Jordan at Tourist Park. And then a little known program that we coordinate is our Purple Blue Stripe Control Program. We have a staff member who coordinates with landowners and organizations to purchase Galaricella beetles, which is a biocontrol for Purple Blue Stripe. Last year, this program coordinated the purchase with 7 organizations. And that might not sound like a lot, but that purchase resulted in 33,000 beetles being released that will control purple blue stripe across the region. And those purchases in 23 was a significant increase over the purchases in 22. And then I know we had more this year too. I don't know how many more, but. So that is a general wrap up of successes in 2023. I know there are a lot more, and the staff probably think I skipped a ton. So please join us across the street, and they will tell you a bunch more. The experts know all about it. So a little bit about me. I don't really talk much about myself, but I'm sure everybody's a little bit curious. If you don't know me, I started this whole conservation thing in high school. I was a little bit bored in my biology class. I went to high school for the last 2 years of my high school career in Frankfort, Michigan. Small town, right? I graduated with all of 24 people. So we didn't have a whole lot of additional biology sort of projects available, no AP biology, right? So my biology teacher noticed that a few of us were bored, or kind of overachievers, so he let us take on an additional project because I think he wanted us to just get off the scare for a little while. So we took a pretty basic kind of 9-factor water quality testing kit out and tested some streams that were close to farms. There's a lot of agriculture in Benson County. There's also a lot of water. So we thought we would be pretty clever and try to test streams close to a few different farms. And we did that over the course of a few months, and then wrote up a report, very pleased with ourselves. Saw some trends, saw some additional differences in pH, differences in phosphorus, and those sorts of things. And that I found pretty interesting, even though I hated chemistry, and really only liked biology. But at the same time, my dad was the chief of the Coast Guard station in Frankfurt, and that also meant that he was responsible for the Point Betts work day on the dunes, pulling spotted knapweed and baby's breath, which is really difficult. I don't know if you've ever seen the shovels that they use to pull baby's breath up, but they're about 3 feet long. The spade itself is about 3 feet long. And it's a hard day in the dunes. But my high school NHS class did it, and that's where my career in dune restoration began. I worked for the Nature Conservancy summers in between some years in college, and then I became a crew leader, and then I worked in fen restoration, and then I joined prescribed fire crews, and then the rest is kind of history. So over the last 20 years in land conservation and working for nonprofits, it just sort of became clear that I wanted to know more and more about how nonprofits worked, how you lead an organization, and I benefited from mentorship from leaders and volunteers and board members, some of you in this room. And so it's just a real pleasure to be here leading this organization. And so now I get to pass it over to Andrea to give you all a few closing words.
It's tough to follow here. Okay, I did write it down, so I get a little nervous while I'm speaking anyway. Although I remember my name. Hi, my name is Andrea Coronado. I'm the Director of Communications and Development at the Mitt Watershed Council. And I have been part of this staff for just over a year now. And this past year, I've learned a lot from this team of incredibly talented people. More than I thought I would learn. And what I've also learned is that we all have our favorite. Whether it's Crooked Lake or Lake Charlevoix or Burt Lake or the Sturgeon River, it's our favorite lake or river in northern Michigan. The one that we want to protect not only for ourselves, but for those who come after us. It's incredibly forward-thinking. I've also learned that it's just as much about the memories we share on these lakes and rivers as it is about their natural beauty and the resources that they provide to our community. Memories fishing, kayaking, boating, or for the less adventurous like me, hunting for Petoskey stones, you can have enough, or spending time with loved ones on the beach. So before we move across the street for refreshments, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for helping the Watershed Council care for and protect the rivers and lakes that connect us all in northern Michigan, no matter which one you're favorite. So we have some big goals for this coming year, and I know we can count on you for your support, working alongside us year after year, because you've been doing it for 45 years. Thank you. And that's really what I wanted to express, was just my gratitude, our gratitude to you. So before we move across the street, I just have a few reminders. One, we have our Healing the Bear cleanup, Saturday, September 7th. This is a rescheduled date. So if you're available, we'll have about 100 volunteers cleaning the Bear River, the entire stretch of it, several miles. Please join us there. Saturday, September 14th, we will be releasing Gimmiwan, our resident sturgeon, into the Sturgeon River at Lumberman's Park in Wolverine as part of the Nemay celebration with the local tribe. They'll be releasing several hundred fingerling sturgeons at the event as well, so if you can attend, please be sure to be there. Lumberman's Park in Wolverine. If you are on the 11 a.m. Rain Garden Tour, you'll be meeting right out front here. So you'll join Noah there in the hat, right here in the front. Just look for him at the front for the 11 a.m. tour. And most importantly, if you received a name badge when you came in, we would love that. So if you're planning on going across the street, please bring it with you. We'll collect it there, but if you're not, we would really appreciate it if you could drop them in for the way out. So with that, I will invite you across the street for refreshments. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, we're officially adjourned one meeting and start another. We do have a special meeting of the board that's gonna happen right up around here in a couple of minutes to elect our officers for next year. And the rest of you are excused. Thank you for coming and for being a part of this organization and care